Hi guys, it's Dr. Bernstein and I'm here to introduce you to the absolutely fascinating world of comma placement, and it's part one. Uh, so basically everybody's got an issue, or most people have an issue with using commas after introductory word groups. And what tends to happen is that people forget to put them there. And if you go through the discussion board, you'll probably notice that I've pointed out that you need commas after introductory word groups. So what's the deal with this? First thing, make sure you take notes, write down what's on these slides, and deal with these issues when you're at the proofreading stage of your posts or your essays. I find it very helpful to have the rule out right in front of you and you go through your essay one time looking just for issues with this particular rule. You will really start to catch things this way, and it's a little time consuming at first, but once you let yourself go through this process, you'll start noticing that you are doing things more correctly on a more frequent basis without having to do the built-in review. So the following rule is important if you begin a sentence with one of the following words or phrases. These words are if, when, although, while, before, during, after, even though, according to, because, and since. If you start with one of these words, if you start a sentence with one of these words, you are using what is known as an introductory clause. Such clauses are dependent clauses. They're also known as incomplete sentences. If you put that dependent clause in your essay, your professor would say that's a fragment. That's not a complete sentence. So these clauses are dependent clauses that offer background details and set the context for the main part or the main action of the sentence. And the main action of the sentence is an independent clause, which is also known as a complete sentence. The rule is that if you start with one of these words, if you start a sentence with one of these words or phrases, you need to place a comma at the end of the introductory clause. Not that right after that word, but at the end of the introductory clause. So let me show you some examples. When I first started reading the poem, that's the introductory clause. If you do not complete the assignments, that's the introductory clause. Although the students were exhausted, that's the introductory clause. Before taking English 102, that's the introductory clause. And you'll notice that these are all fragments, these introductory word groups or clauses that introduce the main point, the main action of the sentence. When I first started reading the poem, I expected Billy Collins to describe how you're supposed to analyze poetry. If you do not complete the sentences, then what? You will not pass the class. Although the students were exhausted, although what? They continued to revise their essays. Before taking English 102, what was the situation? I was afraid of poetry. So the rule is that when you start with one of these words, so this is the way to catch it if you're proofreading, look to see if your sentences start with any of those words I mentioned earlier. If it does, if your sentences do start with one of those words, then you need to figure out where that introductory word group ends. So once you know the rule and you give yourself the time to search out those sentences and put the commas in there, it's actually you'll be able to catch a lot of mistakes before you submit your essays. So that's it for this tip, and if you have any questions, post them on our D2L discussion board under the Ask Dr. Bernstein section. Bye.